I'm gonna stop it. Did you record it right there?
My name is Bobby and I'm alcoholic. Cindy, did you lock the door? They're stuck. A lot of times I talk a lot in the meetings. It probably feels like an hour. This is going to feel like an hour. And the door's locked, so you're stuck. No, I'm just kidding. Did I say my home group is Shepard of the Hills group? My home group is Shepard of the Hills group, the best group of Alcoholics Anonymous that there is. I'm telling you, this right here, right here. My sobriety started in this room when that group was in there. My sobriety date is March 11th, 2011, and it's not my fault that I'm still sober today. Thank God for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, for this group and the people that were here then and the people that are here now. It's not my fault. So I had a resentment with this group for a lot of years, and all the speakers that we had, they never asked me to speak. So God worked that out for me. And I'll probably mess it up, I'm sure, but if my story offends you, I had to live it. So please understand my program is mine too, and the forward at Alcoholics Anonymous it took me about 5 or 6 years until I found out that we don't have a monopoly on recovery. My way doesn't have to be exactly yours. My way is the way that my sponsor showed me through the big book, and the way that I perceive how the big book reads. It's all black and white right there, and my sponsor teaches me the stuff in between the lines. He says those things are pretty important too. So I've tried not to think about what to say. I've gotten to speak at a lot of different places. There was one time I got to speak in Diggins and my sponsor was there. And I was telling Tim about it a while ago, I thought about what I was going to say on that meeting because my sponsor was there. I was like, I had to come up with some cool shit to say, something positive, Alcoholics Anonymous, blah, blah, blah. That was the worst lead I ever got or gave. It was horrible. So he didn't show up tonight. He probably doesn't think I could.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sure. God, are you sure you want me to?
That's why I sat here.
Really? Okay. Point of that saying is that, I wanted to mention my sponsor because the lineage of Alcoholics Anonymous for me is thick in this room right now. There's people that were here the day I walked in this room right now, 12 years ago. And those fellas that are standing up here before you today, they're wearing them suits and ties. I promise some of them never had one, never wanted one, wasn't going to wear one. You know what I mean? Whenever I got here, I was a drug dealer on parole because I sold shit at the bar. But I was on parole for drugs, copped another felony DWI, and this was the last place for me to come. So I wasn't wearing a tie when I got here. That's the point, is what I'm saying. So somebody showed me that it's important to give back to what's been given you so wonderfully. And so I wear a suit and tie. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be here as a member of this home group. Honored to be up front with these guys right here because these guys I know personally, and I know that those guys seek God actively in their life. And every time I get to be up here in front, and I mention it every time that I can, what a freaking honor it is to be with the best people in the freaking world. People who are actually trying to find God, actually trying to correct themselves and live a better way of life. It's a beautiful experience to be in. So I'm a proud member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So with all that being said, I'm probably already screwing up. So I'll just tell you, we'll just start the way I used to do it. Does everybody know what a lot lizard is? Does anybody not know what a lot lizard is? Okay, yeah. Well, my mom, you don't know what a lot lizard is. A truck stop whore. That's what a lot lizard is called, or is a truck stop where they call them a lot lizard. My mom was a lot lizard, and it was nothing for 3 kids to get put in a car at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to the truck stop. We'd be waiting inside. We were real poor when I was growing up. We'd be really hungry. We'd thinking we're going to the restaurant to eat. Seven Gables, whatever freaking truck stop between here and goddamn Oklahoma City. There's a lot of them on I-44. But we'd be waiting there to eat, and more times than not, Mom would come back in there and say, get in the car. And I didn't quite get it early on until a few years later whenever my sister was getting passed off to truckers. My life as a child was kind of bad. People talk about having bad life. We all have bad lives and stuff like that. And we all go through our stuff. But just to share where I come from is we were beat until we were bloody. The switches we picked out was never enough. And then we were passed around to truckers, and it was a bad childhood. I got to beat, first time I prayed to Jesus, I was laying on the floor. I was in pain from being hungry. I don't know if anybody's been so hungry that they're in pain laying there. And that was one time my mom was nice to me, and she laid there on the floor and told me to eat ice cream. She said, rub your belly and ask Jesus to put ice cream in your belly, you know. That's what my childhood consisted of. So by the time I was 9, I started drinking. By the time I was 12, I found my best friend dead. Good friend of mine, John, showed up in Springfield. I was living in Springfield then. Found him dead. We'd been drinking cases of Drury's and King's beer and white port wine. I don't know if anybody ever drank that shit back in the day, some nasty stuff, but he drank himself to death. And then I left home when I was 12 and a half years old. I'd had enough, and I started living on the streets. I don't know if I'm sure everybody else leaves home early, but I remember sleeping under Grant Street Bridge. If you're from Springfield, you know where Grant Street Bridge is, the original freaking Brown Derby. I was there sleeping underneath that bridge right there, trying to steal bubble gum out of the Brown Derby, sleeping on the tracks, drinking the Mad Dog or the Bums. And by the time I was 12 and a half years old, I found myself in Alcoholics Anonymous, my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Some of you all heard some of my story, but it's mine, so I get to share it again for those of you who may or may not have. When I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous in 1985, that was whenever they had smoke in the rooms, you know what I mean? If anybody's been around long enough, there's a shelf of smoke that sits there in the whole freaking room, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you see people's lower half of their body, you know what I'm saying? And walking around through the room, or when they're sitting there talking, you can see part of their stuff leaking around. You're not really paying attention to who it is, because there's literally a smoke shelf. But when I walked in there, a guy walked through the smoke. He had a suit and tie on. It was a nicotine-colored suit and tie. He was Indian, so he was nicotine-colored. And he had a hat on, and he had a big old cigar in his hand. I love that you smoke cigars slow, because he had this giant cigar, and he come walking through there, and he goes, "How you doing?" He goes, "How you doing? My name's Smokey." You know, his name was Smokey, you know. And he reaches out and he grabs me. And God, I love talking about this. He reaches out and grabs me, and he hugs me, and he made me feel something in that moment I'd never felt before in my life. I told you where my childhood was. I unplugged from the fold of relationships with humanity at 4 years old. Never plugged into family, never had it. I'm one of the weirdos that don't know what the hell family really means. I don't know what it means. Some of you may know, I don't. I'm not trying to pound on that, but he made me feel something in that moment I never forgot. 27 years later, he saved my life. I'll tell you how in a minute, but I didn't get sober, of course, then. I was 12 and a half years old. I started making babies at 17, and by the time on my 19th birthday, I was riding to prison with a guy that had one eyeball, pulled it out, and I'm like, God, I'm going to prison. You know, it's 19 years old. I was young. How I live responsibly in the world at 17 years old, somebody gave me a checkbook. I wrote 272 bad checks because I had a little girl, a little baby, and I didn't know how to provide responsibly. So I thought, it would be noble of me to write $14,000 in bad checks and provide food and housing for that baby in the hotel room. You know what I mean? I was the guy that went from homeless to living in a hotel with a baby and writing bad checks to provide for everybody, you know, because I thought that was noble. So I went to prison because of my nobility. You know, I'll go do it on you. You're good. You and the baby wait. I'll be back, you know. God, looking back, just God, you know. So, but before I went, I married her. I married the girl that had the baby with. You know, she was working at Foxy's. If you're from Springfield, you know where she was working. But Foxy's was a strip club. We were both doing cocaine, and I went to prison. And for some reason, she didn't stay honest with me. She cheated on me. I don't know why that marriage didn't work out, but that's how I choose relationships. Right there, I choose the people that aren't good for me, because my whole part of my life from the time I was young is the only time that I could feel emotion and feel successful was through sex. So early on in my years, I started having sex a lot. And whenever I caught my ex-wife, when I got out of prison, she still wouldn't stay true, because when I got out of prison, I was sober, right? Because the parole officer wants you to go to meetings and stuff, you know. So I went to meetings, and I even lied about how long I stayed sober. I picked up a year coin one time. I made it 9 months. And I picked up that year coin because I wanted that so bad, but I didn't make it. But I got that coin, lied to everybody. But I came home, and on my 21st birthday, I found her cheating on me, and I went to the bar for the next 6 years. I don't mean like I did it part-time. I meant like Sunday through Sunday, I was at the bar. I was that guy that was there when it opened and when it closed. And I don't know if you guys are anything like me, but whenever I drink, here I am on my way to somebody else's house before the bar goes up. I come over there, this is how I drink. I drink my beer, then I come to Mike's house and I drink his beer. And then I talk Mike into going to the bar with me. So we're gonna go to the bar, we're gonna drink more beer. And while we're at the bar, we're bumping in there, hey everybody, you guys wanna go to the river after the bar? Hell yeah, we gotta stop by the liquor store on the way after the bar, and then we go to the river. Everybody's naked, pumping, it's fun, ding all night long, and then 7 o'clock comes around, it's time to restart, it's time to re-go, and start to go it again. Everybody else going to go to sleep. I'm the kind of guy that's like, let's go to the fucking liquor store, we got to keep on going. Because the river doesn't stop flowing. And I don't stop drinking. The problem is with me, like most of you guys here that know, is whenever I start, I can't stop. And I never got it. Years later, my last night I was drinking, I was feeling really sick at work, not feeling good, because truth in hindsight, I was alcohol sick. I wasn't feeling good. But in the morning, I said, man, I can't drink again tonight, I can't. By noon, I'm like, well, you know, if I just freaking burn this cold out, I've got a cold. So all I got to do is drink a little liquor, and I'll be okay. You know, by 3:30, I'm stopping by. I got me a 24-ounce can of Budweiser. There happened to be 2 more stores on the way home. I stopped and get another 24, another 24. By the time I got home, I got my cleaned up, getting ready to go. And my girlfriend at the time says, what do you got? Where are you going? I said, I got to go. She goes, why do you got to go? And at this time in my life, I know I just bounced forward 30 freaking years. She said, why you got to go? I said, I'll never forget it. I said, I don't know. I literally laid on I remember looking back at that. I'm glad I just remembered. Maybe God just reminded me of where I come from. I laid on the bed there. I remember having tears in my eyes, like, I don't even know why I got to leave right now. What the hell? The craving had a hold of me. I didn't have a choice. I got up, I went out, met some other chick, got pulled over, got my felony DWI. It was my 9th felony. Back at the other area, whenever I went to the bar for the next 6 years, whenever, like I said, I have friends that last for 3 hours. I'm really good at those, and I like having sex a lot, so I started making more babies. And through the years, my children was watch me go back and forth to jail. I ended up going back and forth to prison. I'm the guy that gets pulled over for felony driving where I revoke, get a violation for my parole, go back to prison again. I did three different times in Missouri and once in Kansas. I took my turn on dope. God, I'm bouncing around here, but I'll tell you what happened the last time I went to prison. They had offered me, I had gotten busted for drugs, and in the bar, by the way, every drug that I ever did, I was because I was drinking, and I was probably in the bar doing it. My monster's alcohol. I could do everything else in the world as long as I was freaking drinking. And I mean, too much sugar, too much women, too much fast cars, too much whatever, you know, there's all kinds of other things that I could say I was into. But I remember being so jacked up the last time that I went to jail, or last time I went to prison. They gave me a plea deal in Stone County. Because I copped a deal in another county where they were going to drop my charges. I'm the kind of smart guy who will voluntarily take a Class B felony so that I can get another county to go along with that, because they were trying to get me for prior persistent, 15 to 45. This county didn't have anything on me. We were going to drop the charges, and I said, wait, I'll take that charge if you give it to me, give me probation, so that maybe that other county would, you know. And they did. Matt Selby came up to me and he offered me 120. This was on my brain because we talked about it yesterday. He came up to me with 120-day shock time, and I was so tore up at the time, and I said, Matt, that's not really going to work for me. And his head freaking turned red, right? His little bald head, and old Matt Selby's got that serious vein flowing through there. He goes, that's the best you're going to get. I don't know why we're going to do that. And I said, well, I'm probably going to be barely waking up in 120 days. I said, don't you got that long-term 18 months in Portland in prison? He goes, what? I said, yeah. I said, 120 days, I'll barely be waking up. I said, I need help here, man. And he said, hold on. So he went and got the paperwork, come back. So that's how smart I am, Grant. I'll turn down 120 days in jail and give me 18 months in prison, you know, because I'm an idiot. But the reason I tell that story, because that helps me bring in the singleness of purpose that helped me understand singleness of purpose in Alcoholics Anonymous. For me, behavior modification is how I stopped doing dope. I haven't done dope since 2006 when I got busted and thrown in jail again. I haven't done dope. I like to drink. My thing is to drink. Drugs, when I don't have them, I don't worry about them. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. If I'm clean for a while, I'm good. But drinking, I'm always thinking about drinking. I'm a freaking alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? My monster is alcohol. I can't stop. So behavior, because whenever I got out of prison that last time, I was doing really good, working for somebody else and doing really good. And I got this big fella like him, but on my 3-4 times taller, you know, big guy, tattoos all over him, rough guy. And he always had that beautiful Budweiser, beautiful white and red, drippity drip off the sides, you know what I'm saying? Just glowing in the sun every day after work, you know. I'm like, wow, you know, it's beautiful. And finally one day, I stopped going to meetings because, you know, your parole officer makes you go to meetings. I was going to meetings and reading the big book, stopped doing all that, stopped praying, and that can got prettier and prettier. And finally I said, man, that's a beautiful can. He goes, well, have some. What's wrong? Are you a pussy or something? I'm like, ego time. I said, hey, give me one. 3 days later, he's like, dude, I'm done. I can't keep doing this. 3 days in a row. The first Budweiser I had, I was at the bar every single night until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, chasing every vagina in the freaking world that I could get, trying to share them all with him, and freaking just left him way behind. 3 days later, he's like, I come to his house, him and his girlfriend, he goes, what are you doing? I said, let's go. Going to the bar, baby. Let's go, baby. Man, I can't do this. I didn't realize he was having one 24-ounce can of beer every freaking night. One. Why would you do that, right? Everybody knows, like, why would you have it just a freaking beer? It doesn't make sense. I got to get drunk, tore up, and blah, 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 you know. Left him behind, and it was on again. Which brought me through the years until that last drink, like I talked about a minute ago. I was with somebody at the time. And still chasing all that tail like I was. I was the piece of crap that liked to chase around women and just blow right through them. You know what I mean? Come up there, they call me Dancing Bob. I taught dancing, line dancing, and two-stepping in the 90s up there in Springfield. And man, had me a mullet, and I was just looking good, you know. I was a mullet man, you know what I mean? And until Billy Ray messed it all up for us, you know what I'm saying? He messed up the mullet. But I thought I was really cool, you know. When I walked in, it was like norm, you know, at the bars. And the problem is that I was hitting all the bars, and I never really realized that everybody would go out to the bar once a week. But I was hitting a different bar every freaking night, and I was doing it every night, and nobody really knew that I was that jacked up. But God, I'm getting spagackled all over the place here. But I got that last felony DWI. I went to Taney County Jail whenever I told you I was cheating on my girl and got the felony DWI. And the next day I woke up in jail and I pulled my face off the floor. The big book talks about no words can tell of the loneliness and despair that I felt in that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. And in hindsight, the floor of Taney County Jail was doing this in my slobbers as I was pulling off the floor. And that's exactly my experience, just like the big book talks about quicksand. I was moving around on me, you know. And the first thing that came to my head, and it's never happened like that, was I don't want to die. That was new to me, because I'm the guy that likes to stand on the cliff going, screw you, buddy, let's go, bring it on. And I'm talking about what I was thinking what Satan was back then. Come on, devil, you want me? Come on. I mean, just like a dummy, you know. But the first thought in my head was I didn't want to die, and my second thought was I didn't want my grandchildren to grow up like my kids did, in part-time dad, because my kids grew up in and out of me being in and out of prison. Their mothers would be mad at me when I got out, so I still didn't get to see them. So I would take the time away from me being locked up. I would take a time away because I'd screwed shit up after I got out, so there's double the time gone, and they're growing up without me. I was not a good father. When I was a weekend daddy, they would come to me. This is the kind of dad that I was. I'd get them every once in a while on the weekend, and I'm super weekend dad, you know. But they always say, well, you need to teach them kids a lesson. They were bad this week, and you got to do it. It's been 3 months since I had them. Well, I got to be the one to teach them lessons. So the first 2 hours of my poor kid's life, they'd have to listen to me drone on and on for 2 hours about a lesson. And then here we'd go floating to camping. The problem with that is at midnight, there'd be 35 people around our campsite in the fire pit. And Dad would pop off beating the shit out of somebody right in front of my kids. Mostly girls. There was one time I had my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's not a little girl. And the girl that I was with at that time wasn't a little girl either. But This guy come over there and called one of them a bitch. It was a bad deal. And so I'm jackhammering him in the fire pit, and my daughter's trying to grab this arm, she's grabbing this one, and the piece of crap that I am that can't freaking think after I see red is I'm using them for weights. I picked my daughter up. I remember stepping into her, picking her up and using her. Boom on this guy and this other girl. So that's me throwing my daughter in the fire, using her for a weight to jackhammer this guy. That's the kind of person I am. I always said I never would hit a woman, and I never did. But I was raising them into a domestic violence situation just as bad as what I went through. There I went, teaching my own kids the same shit that I went through. That's what a kind of dad I was, you know what I mean? I thought I was noble. Go to prison for them. Beat people up for them. I thought that was noble. So, gosh, how did I even get popped off on that? But the other thing, too, is the other thing that I thought of when I was in jail, when I was in Taney County Jail, is I remembered Smokey. I remembered Smokey. The name of that group in Springfield was called the Serenity Group. It was underneath the Sigma House up there. And when I walked in there, I remember seeing Serenity Group on the wall. And so I thought, well, I'll go see if Smokey's kind of stuff is still available. And I walked up to that piece of glass out there, and it says Serenity Club. And that was my first aha. I'm like, Serenity something. When I got here, guys, I mean, I know I'm a weirdo in this thing. Some of y'all get tired of hearing me talk about how wonderful freaking this thing is and how hard you got to work this freaking thing here. But this was all I had fucking left. But this club was here when I got here, and it was available to me every single day. I came here every single day. I got a ride home from work. I'd get dropped off on the highway. I would walk across the street over here, and I'd hang out outside until somebody showed up. Until months later, they finally told me how to get the damn key, or I'd go to the treatment center. I was here every day. That old dead guy that's on the wall right there would show up and talk with me and pray with me. His name's Greg Walker. He helped create this club right here, created the Ozark Serenity Club. He grabbed onto me in prayer and kept telling me that just to wait on God. So I used this club to pray, read my big book, find solitude and solace alone and safety away from the world. I was afraid out there because there's a lot of bars and there's a lot of booze out there, you know what I mean? So I came here directly after work, and it was like that every day. George was here then, and he's here a lot then, he's here a lot now. And Mike was here early on. I was here every single day because I didn't want to go back to where I was afraid. And I remember trying to find my sponsor. Early on, I started working through the steps. I got the treatment center thing, worked over there, and I started trying to pray through the steps. And I remember writing out, I'm glad you're here, George, because I remember writing out my 4-step, thinking I'd worked the first 3 steps, and I wrote me a 4-step, and it was 27 pages long. You know how a lot of us do. We'll write a 4-step. It's a big old thing, you know. And I remember coming up here, and I showed it to George. George goes, "What is that, a book?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "Ain't nobody want to read a book." I was like, "That's what you said to me." I was like, "I'm the new guy." "Oh, fuck, what?" He goes, "You need to shorten that up a little bit." Well, I went back to the treatment center, and I shortened it up to 13 pages, I think. 13 pages. And so I come back. I thought I'd worked my 3rd step, trying to find my sponsor. An old guy named Don Light was here. And since I'm a tough guy, Don Light, that's how he carried me. "Don, damn it, you gotta fucking gobble, 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 a big book." And I sat next to him in the meeting like this, like, "He's gonna be my sponsor. He's the one of them. He's gonna beat me into submission. I love him." It was crazy. It was just the most wonderful thing I ever heard. He was just hammering away, and I thought, that's my sponsor, you know. But I'll tell you what, back in 1985, I asked the guy to be my sponsor once, because he was standing next to a Trans Am at the treatment center, like 6 or 7 girls, hanging out with all them girls all the time, and he was in a freaking sober living house. And he looked like he had just what I wanted. And so I asked him, and he said, "I ain't got time." So I was afraid every time I ever went to AA to ask for a sponsor. But that night I was willing. I was going to ask Don. And I got caught up in the meeting. I come looking for him. He disappeared. Thank God. Thank God he disappeared, because I didn't need somebody to beat me into submission, because I had beaten my fucking ass enough. Excuse my French. There was a guy named Will that used to come to these meetings all the time, and he used to say, "You gotta pull your man panties up around your head and get this and just do it. I remember he made me so mad one meeting, man. I said, "I've had my fucking man panties around my head my whole goddamn life. You stick your man panties up your ass." Because my sponsor ended up being a little bitty short, humble man, in my perception. A little bitty humble man, the first time we got together, he says, we better get down on our knees and pray about this because we'll probably mess this up. So the first thing he taught me was to get on my knees and ask for help as a sponsor. He never beat on me in anything. Everything that he ever talked about come back around talking about God. Every step that we ever went through, he explained to say, I need to pay attention so that I know how to carry the message to the next guy. He made sure to talk about the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. Made sure to make sure I remembered especially the first three: honesty, faith, and surrender. Because if it says in the 12 of 12, it says if we're not 100% in on first step, we're probably screwed. It says that's the only step we got to do 100%. Well, if we're talking about practicing the principles, then honesty is what Bill taught me was the first principle. That means I got to be 100% honest, and that's hard to do. Most people don't want to be. Most people don't want to hear it. It's real hard. But he was a humble, loving, kind man. Don't get me wrong, he pissed a lot of people off up in this room. He had some shit sometimes to say that wasn't really wonderful. But that man helped a lot of men. He helped to save a lot of people, and every time I ever saw him, he was always just trying to help people. Always just trying to help people. I remember he used to tell me to take over there, Church Army. We used to go over there, and George was then too, and come over there and carry the meeting to Church Army. I said, why'd I gotta go over there? It's a sober place. He goes, because they need to hear the message. You know? And I'm like, oh, you're probably right. Okay, so we go over there and we used to bust heads over there because they hated my guts because I was like, all of a sudden I'm a big book thumping dude. Like, kind of like not what Don was, but maybe I was like Don a little bit, hammering on that big book, hammering on people. But anyway, what happened to me, guys, was a big pink puffy cloud come up, went right up my rear ends, floated me right up into the freaking sky, and I was just a few months sober, and things started changing. God seemed to take care of about every aspect of my life. Started taking care of everything. I'm not talking about a few things. I'm saying all I did was the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Everything else took care of itself. I remember going through my 4-step, getting that taken care of. And I'm working hard at work. You know, I was a Mason back then, and driving the cruise, trying to learn how not to be the guy who's in control, but while I'm trying to drive the cruise, here it comes. Gotta have it. I don't know if everybody's old enough to have it when their kids move out, but it's a wonderful day when the kids finally move out of the house, you know, because they stay too damn long these days, you know what I'm saying? And then they come back and forth and shit, you know what I mean? And then the grandbabies start hanging out there too, but finally the daughter finally moved out with the grandbabies, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Just about the time I'm sober, I'm like, that's God doing for me what I can't do for myself, you know what I mean? So I get the house remodeled, the floor done, and I'm a yard guy. And I like keeping my yard cut just perfect, and a fire pit squared off perfect, level. I had to level my own fire pit in my yard, because I gotta have that shit right, you know what I mean? Trees cut up 12 feet, perfect, measured. Anyways, I came home, and them grandbabies moved back in, you know what I mean? Grandbabies moved back home, she moved back in, and I got home one day, and that grandbaby boy, he was 2 or 3 years old, Tyson, he had the yard covered in toys, and I don't even know where he got them from. Old busted up Tonka toys. I don't know where he got that from. It's like the closest neighbor was a mile away, but he had toys that weren't at my house when he got there, you know what I'm saying? All over the freaking yard. And like the little Tykes Castle, the plastic things, those you know, little plastic slide things that never freaking die, you know what I'm saying? They live forever in the weeds, you know, in your yard. Little Tykes that had something there, you know what I'm saying? They made something that lasts forever. And he had that thing drug all the way up in front of the porch. And I'm a little twisted. And I'm stomping around picking up the thing. He sees me out there. He's chasing around after Papa. He's like, this is great, Papa. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm pissed off. And finally I said, Tyson. He looks at me, and all of a sudden something different was in my head. Said, don't talk to that boy like you talk to your kids. Because I remember I didn't use my hands so much after the diaper was gone on my kids. But I barked pretty mean, you know what I mean? And I barked at him, and something coming. That was new. Something said, don't talk to him like you talk to your kids. I went, and he goes, he's looking at me like, and my mind starts thinking. I said, me and you, buddy, we're going to have us a man-to-man. He's 2, right? He's like, huh? So I'm picking up shit, and I get half of it done, and finally he's wandering around behind me like he's having a good time, and I said, screw it. I said, buddy, sit down there on the stoop. And he goes to sit down there, and his sister kicks through the front door, 2.5 done diaper on the floor, you know, wobbling, barely walking out the door, and here comes my mind again. Aha. I said, buddy, will you help me teach your sister how to pick up after herself in the yard. He looks at me like, what the frick are you talking about? You know, he's 2 or 3, and I said, you see Pawpaw's yard over here? And I had half of it picked up. And he looks over here like this, and I said, isn't that beautiful, buddy? He goes, yeah, Pawpaw. I said, he ain't getting me, you know, so I repeat it. Some of you all heard this story, and I said, again, you see Pawpaw's yard over here? Not there, buddy. You see Pawpaw's yard over here? And he goes, yeah, Pawpaw. I said, isn't that beautiful? He goes, yeah, Pawpaw. With some extra loving kindness there to me. I don't think he gets what I'm saying. So I repeated it again. He goes, yeah, Pawpaw. And then he's looking at me like a teenager. I don't know if you've ever had that stare from a teenager, like, you're an idiot. I've got something to teach you if you would shut up. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody got teenagers? They know every freaking thing. Well, he's 3, but that's what I felt. And I said, okay, buddy, what do you got? And he goes, you see that over there? And he points at that freaking little Tykes thing. I said, yeah, I think he's going to have me pick it up. I said, yeah. He goes, isn't that beautiful, Baba? and oh my God, I mean, thank you for reminding me. Everything else in the yard lit up in the light. It started to glow my yard. The things that were all over my yard was glowing. Thank you for reminding me. I jumped up freaking out. I'm freaking out. I'm going, like this, and 2-year-old. We're running. You know, he thinks we're running. I'm trying to get away from him. And I'm trying to find a spot to pray. And I'm running. And there he is. He keeps, I got away from him. And I go behind the house, and I go to hit my knees. The new. And that 3-year-old hits his knees right next to me. I don't think about what I try to pray for when I'm praying, but I hit my knees and I go, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. A 3-year-old taught me what it meant. I had no idea. I've been saying it here 5 million times. But I didn't know that I was asking God to grant me peace to accept the things I cannot change. That boy was in heaven in the toys. He loved the yard the way it was. Who gives a shit that shit was all over the place? Didn't matter. Children know. There's this spiritual dude that teaches people, you know, stuff like this. And there's some spiritual dudes that are hanging out with him one time and said, hey, which one of us are smart enough or cool enough to hang out in front of the class with you? And he said, none of you fools. He said, bring a child up here and they're the same I'll be. Well, I've always worried about what other people think about me, and I never realized that a kid can sit there and go, you know, this one time me and Stevie was over here. They don't care. They don't care what you think. They don't care, and I wish I could find some peace inside my head where I don't care what other people think, and I could live freely and have fun with everything in this world. And that's what this program does for me today. It gives me some peace in my mind where I can recognize that God is all of the time. I was sitting there talking, Bryant and I, we had a wonderful weekend. Wonderful Wednesday. Working through the process of the steps right here. And I getting to watch the light come on in people's lives. Where there's proof that there's a God in this world so powerful that he can take care of about every aspect of your life. It's like, I know y'all have heard me say it, but it's like God has been practicing for a while or something, you know. Like he knows how to be God. And like Bryant said, I had 2 expectations when I got here. Big Book better never lie to me. It hasn't yet. And God better be God. It's going to take a God powerful enough to be a real God to show me that there is a God. And he has proven to be a powerful God in the last 12 years. It's an unbelievable thing. Unbelievable in my life. So I go through the years, so much wonderful things. I had so many things that I love to have said. Kent told me also, he said, there's 3 leads that you'll give. He says, the ones that you want to give, the ones that you do give, and the one you wish you had. I mean, I could sit here and talk about Alcoholics Anonymous for 5 freaking hours because I love this thing so much and I'm so honored to be a part of it. And there's such an amazing power that's inside of this thing. It says in We Agnostics, which was a book that I refused to read for the first 27 years in and out of AA. I refused to read it, but then whenever I finally was willing when I got here this time, I was finally willing to read it. Joe and I working on the weekend together, talking about our conception of God, I had to set any idea of what I thought God was out. I mean, I got saved in prison June 12, 1992, and I thought a lightning bolt was going to run up my ass, and I was going to have a happy wife and a happy life, and a white picket fence would run around a 2-story house, and I'd have 2 cool cars and 2 cool kids, and a woman that was beautiful, hot, and sexy, and wanted to do anything and everything I wanted to do. That's what I thought was going to happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Many times in prison after that. Many more freaking painful scars inside and outside my body had to freaking come to fruition for me, and I had to make sure that I was on every single page of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous before I was willingly broken enough to be willing to follow the directions. So I fly on through my freaking life right there, and 7 years in, no, let's go back, I was 5 years in, I'm sponsor shopping because I get a sponsor that isn't exactly what he claimed to be. You get those, I have gotten a sponsor or two that acts one way to the group and is a different way in another spot. And I gotta grow because I'm afraid to go backwards. I gotta have somebody that's really doing this. I gotta have somebody that's willing to help me grow spiritually. I don't want to fucking die, and that's what I was gonna do. I don't mean to cuss so much tonight, but so I'm looking for another freaking sponsor. So I go up Springfield trying to find a sponsor, and I see this old guy. He's got socks. He's got Hey Dudes probably, right? But his socks, I don't know what age we do this, but his socks are pulled up with his shorts on, with his slippers. I asked my wife, since I started into Hey Dudes last week, I said, can I wear my socks like this? She said, no. I said, one of these days. So I did it around the house anyway, but he wore the little dirty socks up there. Had dirty clothes on. He looked humble and short. And I shared the story about Smokey up there at the meeting there that night, and I'd been watching him a few times, and he was very humble, he was very kind, and he was just had presence of spirit, you know what I mean? So I went up to him and I said, hey, I said, you got sponsors and everything, right? He goes, yeah. I said, well, I kind of like, you know how we do, even years in, I'm like, I said, will you be my sponsor? And he goes, well, so you knew Smokey, huh? I said, yeah. He goes, that was my uncle. Larry took care of Smokey till he died, bringing him alcoholics on his deathbed because Smokey on his deathbed was asking, just bring me another alcoholic. You tell me there's not a God, because I'm talking about 30-some years ago that Smokey came into my life. 30-some years later, his nephew is my sponsor. How's that possible? That's not like a chance experience. You know what I mean? So I went through some difficult times. I'm pretty hardcore about people doing relationships, 13 steps, and some people claim that it's not in the big book. It is. I won't go into that right now, but I started off into a relationship after my 2nd year of sobriety, after when I had cancer, and I thought, well, maybe God wants me to be with this girl, you know. 45 years later, I was still broken inside. Something was still messed up, and I had to get honest, and I had to leave her. She got pretty scorned. She caused some serious issues in the community of Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor said I don't get to leave. I got to sit here in my own truth and take it. I didn't get to run from it, but I had to get honest, and I had to say, look, I got to go figure out what's still wrong with me. So I go to my sponsor, Larry. I said, okay, here's the day. He goes, it's about time we get down to the real shit. He said it's not about not drinking. Well, my sponsor tells me this ain't about not drinking. Who here is drunk tonight? Nobody. So we're not talking about staying sober right now. He said this thing's really about relationships. So he works with me a little bit, and I go my year without trying to bounce on anybody in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know what I mean? And as soon as my year comes up, that pretty freaking blonde right over there shows up in my life. Loves this freaking weirdo off the flip. It's like natural happens, and god dang it, if she didn't freaking marry me, I just can't fucking believe it. This poor girl has to be the one that I practice learning how to love people with. You know what I mean? You should pray for her. It's got to be crazy. You know what I mean? But we got married on Smokey's property. I mean, where his wife died. I mean, there's so many crazy things that's happened in my life because of Alcoholics Anonymous, and this is how it works for me.
I mentioned I had cancer, so you guys, some of y'all know this story. I have a million stories of Alcoholics Anonymous, and wonderful experiences like this, but this is really the principle of how it works for me. I was sick and broken from the cancer. People were telling me to rest, take it easy. God dang, you're hitting too many meetings. You're really worried yourself out. You got too many sponsees, blah, 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 that freaking thing. And one day I'm walking through my house alone. It's a little shady, darky in there, and I look at the couch. I thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I need to rest for a minute. I was dying of fucking cancer. It was bad. They said, yeah, it might have 20% chance. That was good odds for me, by the way. I thought 20%, but, and I turned toward that couch and the phone rang. Hello, Bobby K. I figured out I ain't gotta go to A&A no more. Really? What's going on? Fuck A&A. I'm gonna go start preaching about Jesus and God and stuff. And I started putting my shoes on, sheets of ice outside. I was there alone, and he's going on about going door to door preaching about God. And I'm driving on into the meeting, coming here. For 3 or 4 minutes, he's going, yeah, that freaking whore, bitch, my fucking mother, freaking this, god damn with that. And we're just talking about carrying the message of God. And now he's mother freaking this and god dang that for this and blah 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 blah. And finally I said, Frank! I said, he goes, what? I said, man, I just wanted to thank you. What? For what? I said, man, when you said you didn't got to go to A&A no more, man, I got my shoes on. I'm on my way to a meeting. Because he said he didn't have to. I thought, boy, I better get here quick. It's 3 hours before the meeting. Nobody in the parking lot. I pulled in here, long driveway. Some of you all heard this story, but I pulled in through this deal, and there's a goddamn tracker sitting there pointed right at the door, and this guy's got this 38 snub. It's in his mouth. You could see him. He's just right there in the thought of it, you know. And I pulled through and I went, gun. That's the gun. And I went, I know guns. It's okay, you know. Pull on over there, and it was a guy that was up here down here from Springfield. He's a brain surgeon who was drinking too much and was losing his family, his job at the hospital. A brain surgeon. God dang, Terry got sober. He said, is this that A&A place? Sure is. Is that a gun? Sure is. You want to see it? No, I'm good. Let's put it in the truck. You know, put it away, and we made friends. But the principle of how this thing works is whenever I give up, the phone rings. That's why when I talk to my guys, I talk about the lineage of my sponsors, freaking Alcoholics Anonymous lineage. It's important. It's vital to me. I need you people to call me because I'm too goddamn crazy alone. I can't do life by myself. I have 38 years of proof that under my direction, I'm going to prison, baby, or I'm dead. I don't want to go back there, so I work this thing really hard today. People get mad at me because I roll with the truth as I see it and as I feel it and the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous because I wanted to stay here. I'm heavy on the traditions. That group is not this club. Bothers some people. The tradition says it's not supposed to be. So I want to stand on that. I piss people off with that shit. I say, leave that girl alone. It ain't in the big book. The fuck if it's not, excuse my French. It is. And I call them out about it. They're mad at me. I'm freaking sorry, but I need this place to be here for people. Because I need people to stay sober. I can't do it on my own. I need the lineage of my sponsor to roll through these guys, and they call me. I got a lot of sponsees. I've sponsored a lot of people. It's probably because I got a lot of people in my head. I think God's like, man, I'm going to have to get a lot of guys for this guy, you know. Oh, God, there's 45 people in there. But I need them. I need the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous to carry me through, to call me when I'm getting ready to lay down and take a rest. When I give up and I'm like, you know what? I just need to rest. You know? Or, hey, what the hell, no big deals, let's just not follow the directions for a minute. I don't need that shit. You can have it if you do it. Okay, I started this by saying there's not a monopoly on Alcoholics Anonymous. You can have recovery. If you're staying sober, thank freaking God. If you're still stealing shit, if you're still lying, if you're still freaking going through all the bullshit that you did before, don't whine about how life sucks and try to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't say, hey, Alcoholics Anonymous is good. Life sucks. Excuse me, I gotta go steal some shit. You know what I mean? Or I gotta lie about some shit. Or I gotta hurt somebody else. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I screw shit up. Ask my wife. I'm a maniac. Imagine being in my head. Because, I mean, holding me to the truth, that's hard to do. Even for me. But I gotta do it because I'm afraid of where I come from. I mentioned a little bit of it. A little bit of the scars that are in my body, that are on my body, in my mind, and the wolves that chase me around if I'm not here. This place is life and death to me. So I'm going to blow your head off every chance I get if you're trying to endanger the people that come here or hurt them. And I got to say it, I can't help it. There's a lot of women here tonight. And we struggle in this group. We struggle, it's been struggling for 80 years. 80 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, 13 steppers, men, women, doesn't matter, either way. The men will grab the women, or the men will hang out with the men. The women don't want to hang out with each other. I get it. But save your sisters, man. There's so many women here. If you come together, them boys will have to leave you alone. You say, leave him alone. You leave us alone. God, there's so many women. It could be powerful. This group could be powerful with women in it. Powerful. Women could carry this message if you supported one another. Not saying that you don't. But I remember old school AA when I got here. They walked up to somebody and hugged them and brought them in and protected the newcomer. Protected the newcomer from the wolves of either in my mind or out there. It was part of the program, and it still is. The Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous should, for me, I've tried with all my heart, but I've turned into a freaking hammering dawn light. God dang the Kardashians. My sponsor finally had to set me outside the circle because I was too damn passionate and looking too ugly and scaring people off. I guess he said, I get to tell him. I said the passion for the podium because he said, I saved the passion for the podium, Bob Kane. Keep your opinion to yourself. That's what he said. Damn. I talk too much for that, Larry. Keep trying, Larry. Practice, you know. So, anyway, I could go on for hours and hours and hours about this program. Today, my life is better than it ever could possibly be. I hold the big book to the words where it says the best years of my life lie ahead of me. And I make you mad by telling the truth and you don't like hanging out with me. Thank God that God is the one choosing the people that are in my life today. And I'm telling you, I am surrounded by some characters that have some thick principles of God and faith and love and relationship and growth and support that's unbelievable. I never thought it would. I didn't even know it was real. I'm not saying I could just call somebody at 3 o'clock. I could. It's deeper than that. We seek God together and we cry together and we get angry with one another and we push through that right there. Is that a relationship? I got the best relationships I've ever had and I never knew how to plug into it until I got here. I don't even know what I'm doing now. So I need you. I need this. I need to remember where I come from. Thank you for the opportunity of that. Thank you for letting me be part of this group and this club. Thanks for listening and going through the heat.